Hello, mathemagicians. Welcome to our Day 1 lesson on similar figures. All right, please go ahead and open up your binder to your critical concepts section and find the S page. We're going to write down this definition of similar figures. Similar figures are figures that are the same shape but not the same size. We'd also like you to write this definition on the first page of your note-taking guide. All right, let's take a look at the first set of similar figures in your note-taking guide. You're going to notice these are quadrilaterals, four-sided figures. And if two figures are similar, the corresponding angles have the same measure. Now, we're going to mark off, using arc marks, our corresponding angles. So angle A, I'm going to put a single arc on angle A. Its corresponding piece is the piece that's in the same position of the other figure. So that's angle K. So that will also get a single arc mark. Now I'm going to move to angle B, and I'm going to put a double arc mark on angle B, as well as its corresponding angle, which is angle L. All right, moving on to angle C, you guessed it, it's going to get a triple arc mark, and its corresponding angle in the small figure will also get a triple arc mark. All right, and angle D, our last angle, is going to get 4 arc marks, and I'm going to try to squeeze 4 arc marks onto the small figure as well. Now all of our corresponding angles have corresponding or matching arc marks so that I know which angle corresponds to which. Okay, let's go ahead and fill in the blanks underneath these next two figures, which are our same figures, but we've added some angle measurements. Okay, because corresponding angles have the same measure, we know that angle A, the measure of angle A, is equal to the measure of angle K. We also know that the measure of angle D is equal to the measure of another angle, and since we can look at our arc marks, angle D had 4 arc marks, and angle N is the angle that corresponds to it, so those will be equal in measure. Okay, if the measure of angle A is 60 degrees, and we know that it is because they're showing that in our figure, it's given, then the measure of angle K will also be 60 degrees because we know that they are equal in measure. Okay, now if the measure of angle L is 75 degrees, and we know that it is because they gave that to us in the figure, then we know that the measure of its corresponding angle, angle B, will also be 75 degrees. Okay, let's take a look at the relationship between corresponding sides of similar figures. If two figures are similar, corresponding sides will have lengths that are in proportion to each other. And we can write a corresponding side statement, proportion statement. So let's take a look at side AB. I'm going to just highlight that side. And that side corresponds with side KL on my smaller figure. So right underneath AB in my statement, I'm going to write KL because that's its corresponding side. And since I started with A and went to B, I'm going to go start at K because I started with A and K are corresponding angles, and go towards L, and I need to make sure I write it that way in my proportion statement. Okay, now side BC, I'm going to highlight that in a different color here, is going to correspond with side LM in my smaller figure. Okay, next I'm going to go to side CD, I'm highlighting that in another color, will correspond with side MN. And last but not least, side AD, and I'm starting at A and going towards D. I need to follow that same pattern in my small figure, so I'm going to start at the top at K and go to N and I need to list it that way in my statement. Okay, so this right here is called a proportion statement about similar figures. All their sides are in proportion to each other. Now, we're going to take a look at a new set of quadrilaterals. We've got different names on these, PQRS and GDEF. And this time, our figures don't necessarily look alike. And that's because one of our quadrilaterals is turned. For many of us who are visual learners, it can be helpful to redraw one of the figures so that they look similar. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and you may want to do the same thing on your paper. Okay, so you can see that I've gone ahead and turned my smaller figure so that it looks the same as my larger figure. And then I went ahead and put my arc marks on to help me know which pieces correspond. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start writing my proportion statement, and I'm going to start with segment PS, and I started at the top left and went down to the bottom left, so I need to do the same thing on my smaller figure. That's going to correspond with GF. Okay, I'm going to grab a new color, and this time I'm going to go from S to R on my large figure, and that's going to correspond with FE on my small figure. Okay, let's grab a new color. This time I'm going to go Q to R on the large figure, and that's going to correspond with D to E on my smaller figure. All right, last but not least, I'm going to go P to Q on this top side that I haven't gotten to yet, which is going to correspond with GD on my small figure. So you'll notice that for each one of these, I always put the sides of the large figure on the top of my proportion statement and the sides of my small figure on the bottom. Okay, I need to make sure that I maintain that throughout my statement. So I don't want to have some of the large pieces on the top and some of the large segments on the bottom. That would be incorrect. All right, moving ahead in our note-taking packet, we're going to switch gears and take a look at naming similar figures. The symbol that looks like this means is similar to. When you name similar figures, you need to make sure you start in the same position and keep the letters in the same order. Okay, you can see that I've already gone ahead and put my arc marks on my figure, and I'd appreciate it if you did the same. If you need to pause your video to do that, please do. And the large figure has already been named PQRS. That means they started here at angle P and moved to the Q, then the R, then the S when naming that figure. Now, we have the is similar to symbol right after that. You can see it right here. And now when we name our small quadrilateral, we have to start in the same position and move in the same direction so that our corresponding angles are in the same position. So we start at E, we moved to F, then G, then D. At this time, I would like you to pause your video and complete checkpoint question number 1. Here's a little tip. You are probably going to want to redraw one of your figures so that the quadrilaterals look the same. Good luck. Resume your video as soon as you've completed checkpoint number 1. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our next figures in our note-taking guide. It looks like this time we're not looking at quadrilaterals. We are looking at 2 right triangles. So, I have gone ahead and put arc marks on my triangles with the exception of angle M and angle L. I didn't feel like I needed to put arc marks on those because those are my two right angles, and they already have a designated square box indicating they are right angles, so I know they're going to be corresponding to each other. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start writing my similarity statement, and I'm going to start with the large triangle, and I'm going to say that triangle MPK is similar to, and I started with my right angle, so on my small figure, I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to start with L, go up to N, and then over to K. L, N, K. Now I know my similarity statement is correct because M corresponds with L, and M and L are both first. They don't necessarily have to be first, but they have to be in the same position because they're corresponding. Okay, P was where I went next. I noticed that I have my one arc mark on P, and N is next in my other figure, and it also has the one arc mark because they're corresponding. So P and N need to be in the same position in my statement, and they are. They're both in the second spot. Okay, last but not least, we've got K in the third spot. Now on my figure, K has a double arc mark, and K in my small figure also has a double arc mark. Those are both in the same position. They're both third, and that works out great. All right, guys, I'm going to have you do this last one as a checkpoint question, number 2, but I am going to just make sure that you know that the two rectangles that are similar, here is the small rectangle. I'm outlining it in red. And the large rectangle is this whole big rectangle that makes up the outside. Okay, go ahead and arc that thing up and write your similarity statement. Take your note guide up to your teacher to check in and get your homework. Have a great day.